Okay, next comes the operation plans. This is how the product and service will be created. Okay, if you're going to build something or create a product of some kind, then you need to talk about production. If you're not going to, then, I mean, if you're providing a service, then, or just retail, for example, then you don't need to go into the production. In production, we'll talk about costs and techniques, quality control, customer service, inventory control, product development. Next, you'll need to talk about your facilities, your buildings. What do they look like? Where are they? Floor plans. Are you renting, owning? Access from a production point of view now. How close is shipping and so on. Site plans. If you have a production or distribution facility, you can create these on, PowerPoint or CAD or whatever you want to do. Photos of the existing facilities or projected facilities is really good. They kind of dress up the report a little bit. Lots and lots of text with no breakup is very hard for people to read. So if you can throw in pictures and graphs along the way, that helps. Next, you want to talk about relevant local, state, and federal regulations. Anything that's outside the norm, anything that's not specifically related to just general business operations. Things like zoning permits, if there are some kind of environmental regulations or bonding requirements or things like that. Any trademarks or copyrights or patents. Next, you want to talk about your personnel. Now, these are not your management people particularly. We'll deal with them. In general, you want to talk about how many employees you'll need, what kind of labor, are they contract, are they employees, what kind of policies you're going to have for hiring, what the training methods are, and then some general tasks by employee type. If you have more than 10, you probably should add in an organizational chart. Next, we'll deal with inventory management. How are you going to keep track of your raw materials, supplies, finished goods? If you have an inventory management system, then you should discuss that. If you are doing service, then you probably don't need to go heavily into inventory management unless you have a whole lot of supplies that you need. Okay, next we're going to talk about the suppliers. You want to discuss the major suppliers that you're going to use. All the major details should go in an appendices. And then finally, the credit policies, and these are yours, not your supplier's credit policies, but what kind of discounts you'll give, if you're only going to be cash, if you'll use cash and credit cards, if you'll open accounts for businesses. And then if you're a going concern, you probably should also list your receivables turnover and your average collection period. Okay, the management and organization plan is a pretty straightforward. We're going to talk about how the business is going to be organized as far as the management group. Okay, first we're going to talk about the structure. And this is a good place for an organizational chart if you have details, to who the vice president is, who reports to whom, and so on. Discuss who manages on a day-to-day operation, what experience that person brings. Is there a plan if something happens to the main person? Next is the culture. Identify the culture of the organization. And this is basically not how the employees act toward the customers. This is how the employees and the management interact within themselves, with the customers, with their other outside stakeholders. How are you going to keep that culture going? Are you going to have award ceremonies? Are you going to have an employee of the month? And some information about that. Okay. And then last in this section, advisory support. Now, these are what kind of support the organizations have. Again, you can put the massive details in an appendix, but you might have things like who's on your board of directors, or who is your management advisory board, who's your attorney, your CPA, what insurance company, who's your main banker if you have one, do you have any consultants that you're using, and who are your mentors and other key advisors.